Hola, ¿qué tal? En la sesión anterior, aprendimos a utilizar could y couldn't para hablar de habilidades en tiempo pasado, tanto en forma positiva como negativa. Recordemos la lección.
What things could you do when you were a child?
When I was a child, I couldn't swim. And you?
I could swim when I was 8 years old. I loved swimming.
Really?
Ahora es momento de continuar aprendiendo. ¡Acompáñanos!
Today will be an awesome day. Na 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 na. Experiences you won't forget. Na 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 na. You're here to learn different things, many ways you've never seen. Different style, much more fun. Everybody will have a good time. Knowledge is what you need. If a champ you wanna be, what can be better than this? 'Cause what you need, we gotta hear now. Everybody now sing with me. Na 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 na. Take my hand and follow me. Na 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 na. 'Cause you are about to see. Na 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 na. All the things you need to succeed. Na 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 na.
Unit 5, Lesson 4. Could you read well when you were 10? Utilizarán could en forma interrogativa.
Hoy aprenderemos la forma interrogativa de could para hacer preguntas sobre el pasado de las personas. ¿Están listos? ¡Pues comenzamos!
Hello, Antonio. What are you doing?
Nothing. I found this old photograph and, oh, it brings so many memories. Look. I'm so young.
How old are you in this photo?
I think I was 6 years old.
Could you ride a bike when you were 6?
Yes, I could. I learned when I was 4.
That's amazing. The first time I rode a bike, I was 9 years old.
I was a very active kid. You know, I did a lot of things.
Really? Could you play soccer when you were 6?
Yes, I could. I was a great goalkeeper.
And could you climb trees when you were 6?
No, I couldn't. I climbed my first tree when I was 7.
Whoa! And could you ride a horse when you were 7?
Yes, I could. My grandfather was a cowboy.
I can't believe it! You could do everything!
Yes, maybe you're right. But there was something I couldn't do.
And what was that?
When I was 6, there was a house near town. A mysterious house. And every time I rode my bike near that house...
Were you afraid of that house?
Yeah, yes, very much. I couldn't ride in front of that house. Ever.
Why? What was wrong with that mysterious house?
Oh, well, the thing is, in that house lived a terrible ghost. Or so I believed.
What is that? Who's there? Okay. I'm leaving.
Oh, really? You were so afraid?
Yes, I was. That night I ran to my house as fast as I could.
Could you run fast when you were a child?
Yes, I could. I was in my school athletics team.
And then, what did you do?
I told my parents, but they didn't believe me. So I looked for a book about local legends.
A book? Could you read well when you were a child?
Yes, I could. My mother taught me how to read when I was 5.
It's amazing. And could you write when you were 5 years old?
No, I couldn't. I learned to write when I was 6.
So what did you discover in that legend book you found?
Well, I found something very interesting about the family that lived in that house for generations.
Huh?
I'm so scared. But if the book is right, this ghost can sing.
The ghost was an opera singer? I can't believe it.
Yes, a family of opera singers lived in that mysterious house.
And the screaming?
It was a singer's preparation. That man sang so well.
Could you sing when you were young?
No, I couldn't. I have a terrible voice.
And could you play an instrument when you were 6?
Yes, I could. I played the guitar.
I bet you could dance as well. Could you dance when you were in primary school?
Yes, I could. I was the best dancer in town, from primary to high school.
And what happened when you discovered that the ghost was an opera singer?
I was a very curious boy, so I knocked on the door and I became his friend.
You became an opera singer's friend?
Yes, and I'm still his friend. Do you want to meet him?
Yes, I do. I want to interview him at Radio Rebelde.
Well, he's very old, but I'm sure he can come to Radio Rebelde.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we have a very special guest, Domingo Perez, an opera singer. Welcome, Domingo.
Thank you, Jerónimo.
Domingo, you are a very famous opera singer now. Tell me, could you sing when you were a child?
Yes, I could. I sing opera since I was 1 year old.
1 year old? You're a genius! And could you play an instrument too?
No, I couldn't. My voice is my instrument.
When you were a child, could you play the yo-yo or the top?
No, I couldn't. I practice opera all day.
I can imagine. And when you were a teenager, could you go to the secondary school?
No, I couldn't. I attended a music school.
A music school? Great! And when you attended that music school, could you sing all day?
Yes, I could. I practiced all day.
And when you became famous, could you travel?
Yes, I could. I traveled a lot. I know the entire world.
How exciting! And finally, can you please show us how to practice singing?
Here? This is an unusual exercise.
Yes, I understand.
Okay, here I go.
Oh, that's special.
I know. When you were a child, could you play with your friends?
Yes, I could. I had a lot of friends.
Well, I couldn't. All the kids in town believed that my house was haunted.
They thought you were a ghost because of those exercises?
Yes, and everyone in my family did it. It's really terrifying. No.
But now everyone knows you're a great opera singer and that your house is not haunted.
Yes, please come to visit me whenever you like.
Thank you very much for this interview, Domingo. Antonio, could you hear the interview with Domingo?
Yes, I could. It was great.
Could you hear that horrible noise?
Yes, I could. I remembered my childhood.
It really sounds like a ghost scream?
Yes, it does. And tell me, Jerónimo, could you be alone in the dark when you were a child?
No, I couldn't. I was afraid of the dark, and I believed in ghosts and monsters.
So you must have a ghost story like mine, don't you?
Sure I have. Lots of them.
Well, I want to hear them someday.
Sure, it will be my pleasure.
¡Hola! ¿Les gustó el programa de hoy? El fantasma que asustaba a Antonio cuando era niño resultó ser un famoso cantante de ópera.
Sí, los ruidos que hacía Domingo Pérez con la boca para preparar su ensayo de canto parecían los lamentos de un ser de otro mundo. Por eso todo el mundo pensaba que su casa estaba embrujada.
Y gracias a esta narración, conocimos y practicamos el uso interrogativo de Could para hacer preguntas sobre habilidades pasadas. Además, aprendimos a responder tanto en forma afirmativa con Yes, I could, como en forma negativa con No, I couldn't. Es muy sencillo, ¿verdad? No olvides que la forma interrogativa del inglés invierte el orden del sujeto. Así, en vez de decir la forma afirmativa, You could sing when you were 5,
Decimos en forma interrogativa. Could you sing when you were 5?
ya te diste cuenta, ¿verdad? En el primer caso, decimos You could. Y en el segundo caso decimos Could you. Y la forma de responder puede ser positiva, Yes, I could, o negativa, No, I couldn't.
No olvides tampoco que en este programa utilizamos could como la forma en pasado del verbo can, que significa poder hacer algo.
Así que cuando decimos que podemos hacer algo en presente, decimos I can. Y si queremos decirlo en pasado, decimos I could. ¿Cómo creen que se traduce could en su forma interrogativa?
Pues es muy sencillo. Se traduce como ¿podías? Por ejemplo, cuando eras niño, ¿podías jugar fútbol?
Esta oración, en inglés, se diría así. Could you play soccer when you were a child?
Y no lo olvides. Una pregunta que utiliza could se responde de la siguiente manera. De forma positiva, Yes, I could. De forma negativa, No, I couldn't. Es decir, sí podía o no podía. Tampoco olvides que en inglés, el signo de interrogación se coloca únicamente al final de la frase.
Ujú. ¿Qué te parece si hacemos ejercicios muy sencillos para repasar la lección?
Lee con atención la pregunta. Luego, fíjate si la imagen indica una respuesta positiva o negativa y anótala. ¿Listo? Could you run fast when you were 5? No, I couldn't.
Could you play the trumpet when you were 10? Yes, I could.
Could you ride skateboards when you were in primary school? Yes, I could.
Could you walk when you were 1 year old? No, I couldn't.
Could you swim when you were in kindergarten? Yes, I could. Espero que con estos ejercicios te haya quedado muy clara la lección de hoy. Y eso es todo. ¡Hasta la próxima! ¿Cómo están, rebeldes? Desde hace unos programas comenzamos a dar una vuelta por el pasado. ¿Por qué no revisamos lo que vimos en la lección anterior? Could you run fast when you were 5? No, I couldn't.
Could you play the trumpet when you were 10? Yes, I could.
Could you ride skateboards when you were in primary school? Yes, I could.
La idea es tener más herramientas para hablar de lo que ya sucedió. Pero también volvemos la vista atrás para conocer mejor quiénes somos. Como dicen, si nadie se opone, ¡empezamos!
Unit 5, Lesson 5. I couldn't use a computer. Usarán could en forma afirmativa o negativa para hablar de las habilidades de otra persona.
Hello!
Hello!
How was work today, Antonio? Could you finish the design for the invitation?
No, I couldn't. You will have to wait a little more.
Antonio! You're using the old computer! You should use the new one! It has better software!
I tried to use a new computer, but I couldn't.
It's not very difficult. It's the same as any other computer.
It always happens like that! He has trouble with machines when they are new!
Yes, you're right. Maybe I just have to try harder.
Did you know, Hero? He's always been the same since he was a child!
Is that true, Antonio?
Yes, when I was a child, I couldn't play with my new toys. They were too complicated for me. I remember when we had our first radio at home.
That was almost 60 years ago! Antonio was still a child! He was very excited when the radio arrived. He walked up to the box. He was very excited. He could plug it in, but he couldn't turn it on. Then, a few years later, he had his first TV. He was very happy about it. He could imagine good times. He walked around it, but he couldn't turn the TV on. There were too many switches. He couldn't find the right one. Of course, he could use the radio and the TV, but he had to practice a lot.
And what about the microwave, Antonio? Could you use that?
Yes, I could, but it was difficult.
And what about the cell phone, Jimena? Could he use a cell phone?
Yes, he could. But he couldn't text a message.
Is that true, Antonio? Couldn't you text?
No, I couldn't text a message. I still find texting difficult. But you know, I try to take advantage of new technology.
That's right. As you know, Hero, Antonio uses new technology very well. He just needs some time.
I'm thinking we should invite people on Radio Rebelde to tell us stories like that about the first time they used a new machine or device. It can be an interesting part of Tell Us Your Story.
Sure, Hero, that's a good idea. And they also can tell us about famous people.
Right. I'm sure there are a lot of stories.
I will tell the girls. How's it going, rebels?
Sarah has an invitation for all of you.
Yes, Hero. As you know, we have a contest to call. Tell us your story. We want to know things about the past. As part of this contest, we want to give you an idea. Tell us a story about technology in the past or about famous people.
Right! What happened the first time you tried to use a cell phone? Could you use cell phones when they were new?
How did you feel when you bought a new computer? What happened when you first saw a tape recorder on the market? Or the first washing machine? Ask your parents, your grandma, and your grandpa. Anyone you want. Could they use them when they appeared?
You can tell us about famous people. What could they do when they were children? We will have this show tomorrow. Now, listen to this song from San Luis Potosí.
Hi, Hero. Did you read this story?
No. What is it about?
It's great. It's about a woman. She couldn't learn how to use the electric can opener, but she used it as a paperweight. It's really funny.
Peque, look, we got a lot of stories. And Sarah has more. We're reading them. Here, help us.
This one is great too.
Hi, Rebels. Thanks to you, we have a lot of stories for today's show.
Okay. This story is about Memo. Memo was a little boy. He was 2 years old. He could walk and run and play with older boys, but he couldn't talk very well. That day, his mother talked to his father on the telephone. She said to Memo, "Come on, say goodbye to your father, Memo." Memo walked to the phone. He waved his hand, but he didn't talk. He couldn't understand how the phone worked.
That's a nice story, Sarah.
Yes, it is.
Now, we have information about famous people.
Let me read it, Hero. Frida Kahlo was a famous painter. One of her most famous paintings is the Two Fridas. She painted it in 1939.
Could she paint when she was a child?
No, she couldn't. She could paint when she was 18.
That is very interesting.
Yes, Hero. And this is about Michael Jackson. He was a famous singer and songwriter. He was called the King of Pop.
Could he sing when he was a child?
Yes, he could. He could sing when he was 5. When he was a child, he was a voice in the group the Jackson 5.
Hey, girls, listen to this about Beethoven. Beethoven was born in Germany. His father and his grandfather were musicians. He was a composer and a musician.
Could he hear when he was a child?
Yes, he could. But he was completely deaf when he was 45.
Could he play the guitar when he was a kid?
No, he couldn't. He could play the piano when he was a kid.
That reminds me of Helen Keller. She couldn't see, talk, or hear, but she wrote books.
Could she see, talk, and hear when she was born?
Yes, she could. But when she was 19 months, she had a fever. After that, she couldn't see and hear. She could recognize people by touching their faces or their clothes. She became very frustrated because she couldn't talk. She could talk to her family using her hands.
Wow! That is really incredible!
Hoy aprendimos a usar could para hablar de las habilidades de otras personas. Ahora sabemos que cuando nos preguntan por las habilidades en pasado de una mujer, respondemos Yes, she could, si la respuesta es afirmativa. O no, she couldn't, cuando la respuesta es negativa.
Sí, y cuando se trata de responder sobre las habilidades pasadas de un hombre utilizamos yes, he could en afirmativo y no, he couldn't en negativo.
Vamos a ponerlo en práctica con unos ejercicios. Primero, un ejemplo. Observen la siguiente imagen. En la esquina aparece un signo de menos porque la respuesta es negativa. ¿Cómo responderían a esta pregunta? Could your mother read when she was 5? Respuesta: No, she couldn't. Ahora es turno de ustedes.
Miren la siguiente imagen. Observen si se trata de un hombre o una mujer. Respondan a la pregunta. Ahora tenemos un signo de más que indica la respuesta es afirmativa. Could Diego ride a horse when he was a kid? Yes, he could.
Ahora, could your brother run when he was a baby? No, he couldn't.
Siguiente. Could my grandmother walk when she was old? Yes, she could.
Una más. Could your father dance mambo when he was young? Yes, he could.
En la siguiente parte del ejercicio, vamos a relacionar las dos imágenes que aparecerán en pantalla para crear enunciados usando could o couldn't.
Del lado izquierdo aparecerá una persona, hombre o mujer. Del lado derecho, una imagen que representa una actividad.
Cuando aparezca un signo de más, escribiremos el enunciado afirmativo. Si aparece un signo de menos, vamos a formar un enunciado negativo.
¿Listos? Vamos a ver un ejemplo. Como ven, de un lado está la imagen de una niña. Del otro, una pelota de básquet. El signo de suma quiere decir que el enunciado es positivo. El enunciado que vamos a formar es: She could play basketball. Ahora es su turno. He could ride a bicycle. She couldn't drive a car. He couldn't write. She could take pictures. He couldn't play football. She could draw very well. Por hoy es todo. ¡Nos vemos pronto!